What makes a screenwriter or director follow their dreams in the first place? That's what I want to find out in one scene. I want to know the movie moments that inspired artists who later found success themselves, and I want to see what I can learn from them. I'm a newer professional screenwriter. On each episode, I'm joined by a subscriber who's an aspiring writer or filmmaker because I want their perspective too. We are about to discover some things that are going to seriously level up our craft, so let's get into it. I am sitting down with Jake Thornton and Ted Hall today to talk about screenwriting. Jake is an extraordinary writer and a longtime friend of mine. He's one of the few people I've met who sold a spec for seven figures, which he did with Ben Lustig, who he's often co-written with. And that was at the beginning of their careers. Jake has had many studio assignments over the years, including some massive IP. He co-wrote Hulu's hit movie, The Princess, and he's still going. There's some huge news on the horizon that I'm sure you will all hear about soon enough, so stay on the lookout for that. Ted is an aspiring writer who describes himself as a professional vagabond. His career's taken him from dive bars to government contracting and everything in between. He now works as a software designer, and he decided to give writing an honest effort as a 40-something, which I think is super inspiring. That's really cool that you're just deciding now to just go ahead and chase that dream. And Jason Gruich, my buddy who I do Spot the Pro with, selected his first page on the second episode of the second season of Spot the Pro, which should be out by the time you all watch this. So take a look at that, but certainly says something about where his writing is at already. So we are going to kick this conversation off today by looking at a specific movie and a specific scene that inspired Jake very early on in his own journey. I love this movie. I know Ted is a super fan as well. Jake, you want to introduce it for us and talk about the first time you saw it?
Yes, well, this is the movie, the 1986 James Cameron movie, Aliens. And not only is it one of my favorite movies of all time, I think it should be a prerequisite for any screenwriter who wants to work in the Hollywood studio system to watch and study, because it is absolutely, it's as close to perfect as I think you can be. There are, minor foibles here and there, but it is just a really excellent example of several things. For me, most importantly, and what I want to talk about so much about today is richness of theme in writing. A great character arc, but set to the backdrop of essentially a horror/action movie that's also a sequel. So it's how can you take something that pre-exists and put your own unique stamp on it and just make it work in multiple levels as an action movie, as a character journey, and it's just honestly just one of the I think greatest movies of all time. So yeah.
When was the first time you saw it? Do you remember?
I do remember the first time I saw it. So I was about 11 or 12 years old. Okay. And I had actually really gotten into the Dark Horse comics before I really knew about the movies, interestingly enough, because I was into comic books at the time. And I would go with my local newsagents, as we call them in the UK, and go and grab these, it was Aliens magazine, and it had the Aliens versus Predator series in there as well. An amazing series called Newt's Tale, which is aliens entirely told from Newt's point of view.
Oh, I don't even know about that. That's cool.
Oh, it's great. It's really great. But yeah, so I'd read those before, and then I'd seen Alien. Yeah, I was 12 because I remember I came back from a Boy Scouts camp. I'd seen Alien. Then the following week, I saw Aliens with my best friend Leo at the time, and I had such a visceral reaction to it. I actually really freaked out in a way that I didn't with Alien. And I can't quite express why, because Alien, I think, is arguably the scarier film.
I would say so, yeah.
I would say so, absolutely. And I watch it now, and I feel that. I do feel generally the tension, the atmosphere. But for some reason, there was just a scene in this, and it's the quote-unquote, darkest moment where they're trapped and they can't get out. And I was like, oh my God, I had to literally pause it. And I get a reaction right now. I've got goosebumps right now remembering that.
Dude,
moment.
that's awesome.
And how great that I can remember that 32 years later, but I remember the first time I saw that movie, and it still stays with me. And when I watch that scene still, I go, so yeah.
Dude, that's what it's all about, right? I mean, those are the moments that drive us to do this stuff. Ted, what about 100%. You, man? Do you remember the first time you saw it at all? Or?
I'm not sure if I exactly remember the first time I saw it. I would wager that I'm maybe the oldest person on this call, but my experience is sort of similar to Jake. This was one of those ones that was on the rotation at all of my friends' house. We had Predator, we had RoboCop, we had Aliens 2, and a couple other of those kind of classic late 80s, um, R-rated, super violent, way too young to be watching, but we watched them. We watched them every day. Which one of those four or five were we going to watch? But I can't say I remember exactly when the first time I saw this film was. It's just one of those films that I feel like has always been there and always been part of my life.
Totally. Yeah, it's awesome. Actually, Aliens is that way for me too. I remember the first time I saw Alien. I'm not sure the first time I saw Aliens, but they both, I mean, I've got the hat. It's definitely something that's stuck with me too. All right. Well, there are spoilers ahead, so if you're watching this, I hope you've seen the movie. The scene in question is about midway through the film, when Ripley tucks Newt in for the night. So I'm going to give you guys a 3, 2, 1 play, and on play, we'll start watching it together. And Jake, if you want to stop and talk about anything along the way, just say pause and we'll do exactly that. You
Sounds
guys
good.
ready?
Yeah, I think we'll watch it all the way through. Yeah, yeah.
Great. All right. 3, 2, 1 play.
Last stop. Get in. Scoot down. That's good. Now, you lie here and have a nap. You're very tired.
I don't want to. I have scary dreams.
Well, I bet Casey doesn't have scary dreams. Let's take a look. Nope. Nothing bad in there. See? Maybe you could just try to be like her, huh?
Ripley, she doesn't have bad dreams because she's just a piece of plastic.
Right. I'm sorry, Newt.
My mommy always said there were no monsters, no real ones, but there are.
Yes, there are, aren't there?
Why do they tell little kids that?
Most of the time, it's true.
Did one of those things grow inside her?
I don't know, Newt. That's the truth.
Isn't that how babies come? I mean, people babies, they grow inside you.
No, that's very different.
Did you ever have a baby?
Yes, I did. I had a little girl.
Where is she?
She's gone.
You mean dead?
Here. Take this. For luck. Where's that?
Don't go, please.
Newt, I'm gonna be right in the next room. And you see that camera right up there? I can see you right through that camera all the time to see if you're safe. I'm not gonna leave you, Newt. I mean that. That's a promise.
You promise?
I cross my heart
And hope to die.
and hope to die. Now go to sleep. And don't dream. Sneak.
Awesome. So, Jake, why'd you pick that scene, man?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you think of Aliens, and I was saying before, you think of this great action horror movie. lean more towards action than it does horror. And this is a quiet scene. And this is a character scene. This is a scene between two survivors of great trauma connecting together. It's the scene that, for me, hits deep themes. I would argue that the overarching theme of Aliens is you have to overcome your fears by facing them, or you can only overcome your fears by facing them. It hits wonderful motifs of motherhood that are both present in this scene, as well as motifs of dreams and nightmares that run throughout. The opening moment when you meet Ripley is her waking up from a nightmare, you know. And it's also the scene that makes the ending so powerful. The ending of the film is, from, probably about page 89 onwards, I should think. Newt is lost.
Yep.
She's taken down into the hive, and Ripley goes basically on her own to go and save this little girl. You are so tied up in that scene emotionally because of this scene. So for me, this does what any great action movie does, which is have a moment really with your hero, understanding and really connecting with the stakes character, so that we actually really feel something at the end. So I think it's an expertly written scene. And as I was going through it again and reading the script, and it's well worth having a little look at the script too.
Yeah,
going.
I'll link to it in the description of this.
Yeah, this is just excellently written. And you realize why James Cameron is such a master. He
truly is.
Yeah, those are the reasons. Do you think, which scene from Aliens makes the movie? And for me, it's actually this one.
I mean, it is really crazy. Like, this scene does so much work where you really only need the scene in the very beginning where you learn that Ripley's daughter has grown old and passed away. And then this scene...
Let's add something though really quickly, because we were having a conversation about this just before. That's not in the original theatrical release.
Which is so strange. So actually, but you know what the weird thing is? So the backstory for this, for anybody watching, I had sent a clip over so that we could all watch it together that I had ripped off of Hulu's version of Aliens, and it didn't have the conversation about Ripley's daughter dying, and which is so strange because on my DVD the theatrical cut does have it, and the special edition cut has it. So I don't know what Hulu did, but like they cut a really critical element of that. Like, it's a super important part.
Well, it's interesting.
All you need is all you need is that opening scene where you learn it, this scene, and it justifies the entire motivation for the third act. It's
100%.
It's that strong.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is, again, as I kind of look at these, images, these motifs that we have, you start off with the ship coming through space, and the guys come into the Narcissus escape pod, and they find her asleep, and she's there alone apart from Jonesy, the cat, in this pod, Then she wakes up. We think she's waking up. She's actually having a nightmare, So we have this imagery of sleep, of dreaming, but not just dreaming, but of having traumatic nightmares. And we see that moment where we think she's got one inside of her, And then the final image of the movie. Does anybody remember what the final image of the movie is?
Her back in the cryosleep.
With who?
With Newt.
Exactly right. Side by side. And actually, when you go to the final page of the script, and again, you just go, oh my God, he's stating it for us all to hear. He writes, dissolve to Ripley in capsule, where we started, except now it's a two-shot with Newt behind perfect in sleep. So anyway, so
Right.
she comes out of that situation. She learns she's been in cryosleep for 57 years and that her daughter is now dead.
Yeah,
Died the year before. Like, tragic. You go, oh man, just 1 year, you know? And so you have this mother who has lost a child. This mother who has lost a child. And this scene is the scene where she, quote unquote, adopts Newt, you know, and it's the moment where she gives her the little tracking bracelet, which you think is just a nice little, again, we watch it now going, oh, that's clever because that's going to come back. It's just so seamlessly woven in, you know, and you're right. The scene does a lot of work. So let's go through all the things it does, because I think I think it's excellent.
I would love to. Before we don't jump into that, can you just give me like how long was it between when you saw Aliens and had this clearly like formative experience and when you decided you wanted to pursue writing or filmmaking or something like that as something more serious than just kind of a hobby?
That's a really good question. So yeah, I watched it when I was 12. So that's 1993 to age myself. And I originally trained as an actor, but I began in my final year really getting interested in screenwriting. I don't really know why. I had read the script and I had the screenplay for both Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, both movies which I loved at the time, and I just became obsessed with reading those screenplays. But it wasn't until 2006 that I wrote my first feature-length screenplay. Again, still as an actor, going, hey, I'd like to write something for myself to be in, you know, and then, you know, really started giving it kind of professional consideration. I would say probably in 2008, 2009 was really when I started to make moves in the industry and got my first reps and things like that. So yeah, you know, a significant period of time, you know.
And do you feel like you were, you know, this movie in particular was influencing you that early on as well? And
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think there are multiple movies that I would be like, oh, I really would love to write in that kind of, you know, genre and that kind of space. But it's been interesting to see, you know, how in my later career now, I view this scene differently. You know, I don't view this scene the way that I did when I even first started writing. Now I go, and I think one of the things that I've been developing at this point in my career, you know, as you mentioned, I've been working a long time with my friend Ben Lustig. We're now doing some things separately as well as collaborating on some things. So I've been kind of exploring what it means to write on my own. And what does that mean? What does that look like? How does one write on one's own? It's not an experience I've enormously had in the past. And one of the things that I've really discovered and really begun to fall in love with is the idea that theme influences everything. I think early on in my career, theme was something that I accidentally backed into or that I discovered through the writing of. And that's okay. I think that's okay. But for me, the work I've been doing when I have theme on day one or in that first week of when I'm breaking a story is the thing that then influences everything else. And it actually helps me make choices easier. It's really interesting.
Absolutely.
You know,
yeah, you definitely want to have a good theme in mind when you start. I think though, then you need to allow yourself to let the theme evolve as you write. Like maybe you start out with like never give up as your very high level simple theme, but then you just kind of let the writing take you where you will.
Yeah,
which sometimes will change the theme a little.
Yeah, and there's validity in that. But again, you know, say like even discussing that theme as a theme, never give up. Well, for me, that's not rich enough. That's not a statement enough. You know, when we're talking about aliens and I go, you know, you have to face your worst fears in order to overcome them. You know, that then gives me a really strong ending point, because that's the point I'm trying to make with this story at the end, you know? So then I can go from that point and I can completely invert it and go, your worst fears must be avoided at all costs. And that's where I start my character at, you know?
That's the wound.
That's the wound. That's the trauma. That's their need, you know. So although I have found that it does, like, the wording changes slightly and it might affect how I go into stuff, having it stronger. And again, it's not to say you can't make discoveries. You should absolutely be making discoveries, and that's one of the nicest things that can happen. You go, oh wow, I didn't know that. Wow, that's great, you know. But I think if it comes from choices based on one's understanding of where you're going, based on who this character is at the start and who we want them to be at the end, or not, per the theme, has been something that's really changed the way I write. You know,
that's cool.
So
yeah, I use it a lot more than I used to as well.
Yeah,
and I'll fully admit, partially influenced by Craig Mazin's incredible
100%.
like 1 hour podcast thing for Script Notes. I mean, it's just I feel
It's
like 80% of people who are watching this will already check that out. But if you haven't,
agreed.
just Google Script Notes number 403. Yeah. It's really great. And I don't use that for every script. What's that?
Yeah. I'll also add. I know that we were texting about this at one point. I've been reading 2 really interesting books. One is called Invisible Ink. I forget the name of the author, but Invisible Ink, Brian, someone, I think, he talks about this a lot too. And also William Martell, who, you know, has written a lot of kind of like TV movies.
You know, I've never read any of his books, but I've heard they're really good.
You should totally do it. He's got such a wealth of knowledge, and he writes this really interesting book all about outlining. It's called Outlining in Thematics. And it's all about how your theme influences your outline. And it's like, I really got into it in a big way.
Cool. Well, those are good shout outs. But yeah, I mean, I just, just Craig Mazin thing alone, like, was a huge, like, light bulb moment for me, for sure. So, I don't use it in every script, I would say, but like sometimes it's like the perfect thing. So
I listen to that talk before I write any movie now, before I write any screenplay. I just reconnect with it. Because, you know, I think what's so good, and perhaps, you know, Ted, you could talk about your kind of understanding of various things when it comes to the concepts of structure. Like, what does structure mean to you, Ted?
Structure to me is just the pacing. It is getting the pacing right, and structure leads to that.
Sure. Yeah, that can absolutely be part of it too. You know, I think for many beginning writers, I'm really glad to hear you say that. You know, I think for many beginning writers, and it totally was for me, it was, this needs to happen on this page. You know, this needs to happen there, this needs to happen there, this needs to happen there. And it's not to say that the observations that perhaps people like Sid Field, who was the kind of one of the, you know, let's just say like the originator of this kind of concept of, you know, observing modern film structure, you know, it's not to say that his observations were wrong. But again, what I like about what Craig Mazin says is it's coming to it backwards. It's coming to it like, you know, dissecting a body and going, oh, okay, well, this goes here and this one here, rather than why it was that way to begin with. You know, and again, it's going, you know, why do we have a quote unquote inciting incident? Why do we talk about the middle of a movie, a midpoint? Why do we talk about a dark spot? Like, what is the reason behind all these things? And when you come to it from character and theme, you suddenly go, oh, okay, well, I've got this character who I'm exploring this theme through. They're this way at the beginning, and I want to punish them. I'm not going to punish them super hard at the beginning. I'm just going to kind of make things a little tense, a little difficult. And I'm going to increase that and increase that and increase that and increase that and increase that until they have no other choice but to absolutely 100% face that fear that they had at the beginning and be born anew by the end of the movie. You know, and when you come to it, you go, oh, okay, great, yeah, got it. And literally, I was using this last week, working on this script for a studio, and I was going, how can we punish this guy? We're at the moment where the worst possible thing is to happen to him. What is the worst possible thing? And it wasn't about being shot at by bad guys. It wasn't about, you know, even dying. It was about exposing the secret that he was trying to keep at the beginning of the story. You know, and suddenly you go, oh, great, cool. And that's why it's going to hopefully emotionally resonate more than just getting shot at by bad guys.
I love those moments where you've like kind of you have that light bulb where you're like, oh, that's what it's about. And then it's just so much easier to move forward. It's always like such an
100%.
invigorating moment.
Yeah. So then with regards to this scene,
Yeah. Bring it back
let's
first,
bring
Jake.
it, let's bring it back. So the scene starts where she's bringing Newt in to kind of lay her down, which is a very motherly thing to do. So already she's already taken the kind of first steps when she's wiped her face clean a little bit. But this is the moment where they really have a connection. And the very first thing that Newt said, again, I'm looking at the script right now. I know there's some discrepancies.
I'll probably edit it in here a little bit. So yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah. So, Ripley brings her in. I don't want to. I have scary dreams, which is obviously the way that Ripley started the movie. So she really understands. And then Ripley takes the little doll's head, Casey, looks inside. Bet Casey doesn't have bad dreams. Nothing bad in here. Maybe you could just try and be like her. Don't face your fears. Just ignore them. It's all fine. Oh, holy shit. That's the theme. And she's trying to use the theme on this little girl in an entirely organic way that we would speak to children. But suddenly you're going, oh, fuck. And again, you don't notice this consciously.
Right.
You're not watching it go, no, that's the theme. Oh, 10 out of 10 for you, Jim. You just feel it unconsciously in your body. And then what does Newt say? She says, Ripley, she doesn't have bad dreams because she's just a piece of plastic. And I love the action here. Newt rolls her eyes as if to say, don't pull that 6-year-old shit with me, lady. I'm 7.
I really find Cameron's writing so interesting because he uses more space than I typically would in an action line.
Okay.
And yet it winds up being so efficient because it conveys so much that he doesn't need dialogue to convey it, right? Like, or he doesn't need 100%. This or that. Like I've never read all of Aliens. I've read the first Alien like 4 times. It was like one of the formative scripts for me, but I'd never read all of Aliens. So as I was kind of prepping for this and I'm reading through this scene, I was like, I'm getting to the beginning of it, and I'm just going to read this out loud real quick as an example of what I'm talking about. So Ripley carries an exhausted Newt through the interconnecting rooms of a medical wing. She reaches an operating room, which is small but very high-tech, vault-like metal walls, strange equipment. Several metal cots have been set up, displacing OR equipment, which is pushed into one corner. So that's 5 lines to describe this scene, which is more than I think most of us would typically use. But and so I'm reading that, I'm like, that's interesting. I wonder why he's using that much space. Maybe it's just like he's got a vision in his head. But then you get to the top of page 64, the next page, and it says she turns, reaching for a portable space heater, sitting nearby, and slides it closer to the bed. She switches it on, it hums and emits a cozy orange glow. And what he's done here is he's created this really amazing arc with the space, with the setting, with the visuals of it, because you start out with this cold, almost sterile metal place. And then as like they're having this arc in their scene where Ripley, the mother who has lost her daughter, is now kind of like needs this moment with this little girl just as much as the little girl needs her. She turns on this portable space heater, which completely alters the space. And now there's a cozy orange glow. And like, I didn't even notice that the first time I was reading through it. But like, it's just like you said, it's a subtle thing that gets at you subconsciously, and it reinforces the storytelling of the entire scene. It's genius and it's efficient instead of wasting space, because it does so much that you don't need additional dialogue. You don't need additional action beats. It's really cool.
100%. And it's, when you read the scene, imagine it without the space heater. And it's so small. But you just go, oh my gosh. And when you watch it on screen, the light changes, stops just being that kind of black and blue, and it becomes this orange, and it becomes womb-like, and it becomes safe. And these two people connect and bond in a deep way, but in a deep way that involves this little girl challenging her. And she does it twice. First is, don't pull that shit with me, But then there's this moment that comes, and let's just keep reading the scene for a moment. So Newt says, my mummy always said there were no monsters, no real ones, but there are. Again, I remember watching this scene and going, oh man, because I was still basically a child at the time, you know? And you think, wow, yeah, fuck, what if there were monsters out in the world? That's nuts. Ripley, yes, there are, aren't there? Why do they tell little kids that? Again, Ripley's line in the movie is different. Ripley's line in the movie is because most of the time it's true. In the script, it's, well, some kids can't handle it like you can.
Which do you like better? Do you have a preference?
I like the movie version, and I
think they nailed it in the movie.
I think they nailed it. Most of the time it's true, you know. Did one of those things grow inside her? I don't know, Newt. That's the truth. I'm going to tell you the truth. Isn't that how babies come? I mean, people babies, they grow inside you. Again, we hit at this motif of motherhood, you know? No, it's different, honey. Did you ever have a baby? Yes, a little girl. Where is she? Gone. But Newt doesn't let it go. You mean dead. It's not a question, it's a statement. Stop hiding from your trauma. Face up to the truth. This is it. It's more a statement than a question. Ripley nods slowly. And then, after she's able to, I get chills. In that moment, she goes, I'm going to adopt you, figuratively, with this tracker. I'm going to give this to you.
Which is amazing. And also, sorry, go ahead, Ted. I want to hear what you have to say.
She makes that promise. The same promise that she kind of couldn't keep with her first daughter. I promised I would be there for her 11th birthday. Now
yes,
she's
what a great observation.
That promise. I will
100%.
You know, so that's really powerful, and he does a really good job with that. I also love how consistent he writes Newt in this scene. Like, she is very precocious. She does not want to hear your bullshit. She wants to know the truth of where babies come from. Why do parents lie? It's just a doll. And when Ripley's honest with her, that's what gets her to trust her. She's been let down by the parents over and over, by adults. They lied to her. There are not monsters. And here's the first adult who's being honest with her. I don't know what happened to your mother. I don't know if we're going to kind of get out of this. You know, so it's just really amazing how consistent he writes Newt in that scene. But that's
100%.
also why I think
those are great observations, Ted. Yeah.
I think I prefer the script version of that line for that very reason.
Interesting.
Because that's a little more in line with that character and the flow of the scene, where the movie version is a little more Hollywood, I think.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Her performance is so good when she delivers that most of the time of its true line too, right? So it's like, you know, you wonder, was that her idea or was it Cameron's idea? Who knows? But it's interesting to discuss like the nuances of that. I think you make really good observations. And what's interesting
100%.
about the tracker is, you know how you were talking about how this is the moment that sets up the emotional motivation of the third act, right? Where like, instead of just needing, like, the second act's goal is to escape. The third act's goal is to actually like go and face her fears, face the monster, and like and save Newt. And the tracker is necessary for that to happen too, right? So this scene, because the tracker is how she finds her. And so this scene is doing so much work. It's doing so much
100%.
heavy lifting in 3 pages. It's really cool.
And yet, when you watch it, you don't feel like you're watching a scene that does heavy lifting.
Right.
You don't think you're watching exposition.
It feels like you're taking a breather.
Absolutely. But actually, you're setting something up in a deeply emotionally satisfying way. You're watching a mother connect with a new surrogate daughter, embracing that part of herself once again, you know, and then also setting up the things that are going to happen. And also this thing of, you know, you have to face your fears. Stop lying to me. When you stop lying to me, you stop lying to yourself, and you're able to face it. You know, and I missed the observation about the promise. It's so great. I promised I'd be back before her 11th birthday, whatever it is, you know, and she makes her this promise there, just like, oh my God, you know. So, you know, and then literally in the very next scene, I know we're not studying that scene today, but let's put it in context. What happens? They go and they're having conversations about the eggs, and they say, well, something must be laying these eggs. like a queen bee, like a queen. That's ants, man. What, you know, but it's all coming together, baby. You know.
Yeah, and it's also setting up like, so this is the room where Burke traps them with the aliens too, right? But before
Yeah.
that moment happens, she comes back to find Newt, and Ripley comes back and finds her beneath the cot with the space heater. And
Right.
it's still like she like this place has become her new safe place, and Ripley helped it become that for her, right? And then Burke actually undermines that, and so now it's like one more. It's kind of one more thing that's forcing Ripley to kind of like really get out after it, and the scene
Yeah.
is setting that up too. It's
Yeah.
it's really it's doing a lot.
Yeah. And so after, you know, we obviously, you know, so again, as I think about and talk about structure, you know, I on one side, you know, I go, you know, thematic, it's all very, very important. But then also in my own writing, I do think in terms of sequences. You know, I do write generally in an 8-sequence fashion. I used to do it more in terms of, you know, 4 acts, act 1, 2A, 2B, and 3. But now I generally, I kind of condense them down even more into these sub stories where new pieces of information are revealed. And so, you know, I do become and again, but it's so interesting, you know, Cameron's script fits the paradigm exactly. And, you know, although I go at the beginning, I don't tend to think about page count and what's happening on what page. There is a certain point where I tend to your point, talking about pacing, I go, how long has it been since blank? How long has it been since I've had an action scene? How long has it been since I've created suspense? 100%. So I do become aware of those things, but I tend to become aware of those kind of after that first draft is done, and then I go back in and go, okay, where are we here, and what's happening? But so in my kind of observation of where we are in this, you know, this is what I would describe as sequence 5. You know, we've had this middle of the movie when things have gone horribly, horribly, horribly wrong. We're stuck here. It's going to be, again, and again, what I love about this movie is the amount of ticking clocks that Cameron uses all the time. They're so great. So first of all, we've got this big ticking clock, like how long till we're relieved? It's going to be, I think it's like 3 weeks. We've got to survive here for 3 weeks. Fucking hell, that's crazy. Like, how are we going to do that? You know? And then the ticking clocks come thick and fast. They really start to happen. You know, you know, how long till it blows? The thing
running out of bullets.
Running out of bullets. You know, even down to the so obviously you've got the, you know, you have 9 minutes to reach minimum safe distance, but then you've got the tracker on the and when they get there, she's not there. You know, all these things about you're running out of time, you're running out of space, you're running out of bullets. You know, it's just, and it happens from that middle of the. I look over there because I've got my whiteboard with my sequences all laid out on it. You know, so anyway, but it's this scene, like I said, just it's this nice calm moment that hits at just everything that is thematically so rich and resonant in this movie. So yeah.
It reminds me a lot of the scene in The Princess where she goes into the kitchen and reunites with Lynn, and they kind of like refocus, and she makes a commitment to, it's my fault, whether she's right or wrong. I'm going to go save my family because I'm now taking responsibility 100%. For their well-being. And
I'm glad you said that.
Right in the middle.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you know, and it's funny because I don't think, and it's, you know, I was kind of having this conversation earlier about, you know, backing into theme and backing into structural stuff. I don't know how conscious I was of that until you just brought that up.
When I was wondering if you wrote was that in the first draft, or was that one of those things that you came back and said, you know, I feel like we're missing a little bit of that connective tissue here. Let me go add this scene. I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. So the character of Lynn went through an enormous metamorphosis. There were versions where that character was her brother. There were times when it was her old Mr. Miyagi type mentor, which, you know, obviously was more just kind of sex changed in terms of bit becoming Lynn. And I'm trying to remember in terms of when we were writing it going, we need this moment where, I mean, ultimately, you know, we were and are always aware of what happens in the middle of the movie. And is it a victory or is it a defeat? And I would say probably, again, it's probably 50-50 about whether something good happens or something bad happens in the middle of the movie. And I think, again, in The Princess, they've been defeated. She's all wounded. She's all fucked up. She's going, what am I going to do? And so, yeah, I as we're talking about it, again, it's funny because that was 5 years ago. We saw that script 5 years ago. But yeah, it absolutely is this aspect of finding these moments where you have someone to talk to. And again, it can be difficult in movies like that, which is why we wanted to create this other character that we could have her talk to. And you go, how are you going to have this other person whereby you go, here's now the action I'm going to take. Here's how I'm stepping up to the plate. I think in terms of these refocus, absolutely. I think in terms of these 4 tropes, again, if I'm thinking Act 1, 2A, 2B, and 3, I think of Act 1 as being someone who's displaying a separateness from the world, an orphan mentality. Sometimes they can literally be an orphan, or they can have lost something dear to them. So that's generally how I think about Act 1. My Act 2s, 2As, are making discoveries, becoming a wanderer, someone who is asking questions but not fully prepared for the answers. Something happens in the middle. Then in 2B, the archetype is, someone who is a warrior, someone who is a fighter, someone who's taking action, someone who is stepping out of a comfort zone, but still hasn't fully changed yet. And then in Act 3 is sacrifice, someone who is a martyr, someone who is willing to die, perhaps literally, or sometimes figuratively, to get what they want, but ultimately get what they need.
Or kill their old self.
Kill their old self, 100%. So yeah, it's I was trying to think in those terms too. So yeah.
That's cool. Jake, you know what? You just this is just a mild tangent, but you just reminded me of something. So the last time I did a video with you guys, or I guess it would have been, so 5 years ago, we did one for like that very first series I did, Reentry. And we said on that one that you guys had just sold a script that we couldn't talk about yet, and that was The Princess. So I think that we just need to schedule more of these for you, because the timing works out great. Like
100%. That'd be great. That would be so great.
Does that mean I'm going to sell Airlock in 5 years?
I think so. I think it's on the slate.
What's Airlock about, Ted?
So it's the sci-fi film. It's about a murder that takes place on a space station, and a crew of miners get together to go and enact vengeance, and things go off the rails. And awesome. I kind of describe it as a 12 Angry Men in space.
Awesome.
Although that you don't get that on the first page. It's actually being read right now by Oscar Isaac. So hopefully,
nice.
All right. That's awesome.
Let's send vibes. That's really cool.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
It's been sent to a couple other big names, and they've all passed. So we'll see.
I mean, that's amazing that you're getting it in front of people like that at this stage, man. That's pretty cool.
That's what the producer tells me. I believe him, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I would. Yeah.
There's no reason I shouldn't. I do believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's
fingers crossed. That's amazing.
If you don't trust your producer, that's a problem.
It just feels surreal. I can't believe that
that's
you're
amazing.
Telling me some of these names.
Yeah, I mean that's incredible.
I had that recently. I had that recently with a script that got out to just two of the biggest names. Watching films since I was young, I was like, sorry, who is reading it? Okay, amazing. So
those moments are so surreal. Like it's just like
surreal.
Yeah. It's fun. Those are those are also the moments like those that I think keep us going sometimes. It's like it can be a real grind in this business, and the lows can be pretty low, but the highs, they're really high.
And that's it, isn't it? Is it such a roller coaster, and it's such an abusive relationship,
Totally
it's really working in Hollywood is an abusive relationship, because I've had so many, and again, I 100% hope this goes the way you want it to, and if it doesn't for whatever reason, that's also just kind of part of it. And I think the biggest thing that I think I've really learned over the 11 years of my career from an emotional sense is, don't believe any of it until it's real. You sound like you've totally got your head on your shoulders about it, which is great. You know, we've got a really nice big director attached to this next script, a huge star, and also all of those things could go away tomorrow.
Yep.
All of those things could go away tomorrow, and they have on things in the past. You know, I've had enormous names attached to things, and suddenly it's like, whoa. And ultimately, it's how we are able to weather those storms in ourselves.
I mean, yeah, you had an incredible career behind the scenes for like 10 years before you got your first movie made. But I mean, you had what most people I think would call an enviable career, in the sense that you were, you know, working with really cool people on really cool projects and properties, and you were able to make your living doing that. I mean, that is like 90% of the dream. It was just, I'm sure it was 100%. Frustrating not getting.
Well, it's one of those things, isn't it? Because
made.
Yeah, totally. Because, you know, obviously, if we wanted to just be writers, we'd write novels. You know, if we wanted to be those, you know, those kinds of storytellers, it's so, and we would self-publish. You know, we wouldn't have an editor. You know, but Hollywood is so dependent on this larger machine working, you know, for us and with us, that, you know, after, you know, I think it was eight or 9 years. We broke it in 2014. 2021 was when The Princess got made. So it was 7 years. But that 7 years felt like an absolute eternity, waiting for something to get made. You think, this is going to be the one. This is going to be the one. Totally, this is going to be the one. This is going to be the one. And it can become emotionally exhausting. But I feel like I've developed those skills now to be like, none of it's real until it's actually real. You know.
Luckily, there are guys like you guys out there, because I've heard the story of Aftermath. I've heard the story of Winter's Night. So like, that is what I'm expecting. Like, and I would count an experience like that as a win, because it is a 100%. Win, and it's so hard to get it up onto the screen. So hard.
Oh yeah.
So,
look, when to kind of build on what Jake was just saying there, I mean, because I've had many of, you know, almost myself. 2 weeks before production started on Aftermath, my wife was like, you know, you can be excited now, right? And I'm like, nope, not yet. We're not until they're filming, not until they send the
even when they're filming,
like, right? Not until you have a distribution deal.
Yeah, 100%. No, there was
and I do want to reinforce, like, Aftermath is something that I'm incredibly proud of. It's very different than what I expected it to be, but like, it found a real audience. Like, over 20 million people have seen that movie. I mean, who gets to say that kind of thing? It's unbelievable. It's so special. And like, I had so much fun along the way. And I've met so many cool people as a result of it. Some of whom I'm still working with. I mean, there's no way that's not a massive win, you know? And hopefully it's not the last one. But I'm very grateful for it no matter what.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. All we got to do is keep going. That's all we can do.
Yeah, man. So, dude, but Jake, you know, you work with the actual studios. You know, I'm at kind of like the higher level, indie level or whatever, right? But you're repped at a major agency. You work with actual studios. You've got a higher up view of this whole thing than I do. We've been going through a couple rough years. Do you have a sense of where things are right now and where we're headed at all? Like, I know like you don't have a crystal ball, but I'm curious on what it looks like from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously been interesting. I'm sure we're all aware that there have been a bunch of spec sales this year, which has been so great and encouraging to see. And then one of them's going to be mine. And again, it hasn't been announced yet, but it's really great to see that. From the other point of view of it, you know, from what I'll call, from the open writing assignment part of it, that being, hey, a studio has a property and they want you to come in and write. They want you to come in and pitch on this thing. I haven't had one of those calls in a really long time. Now, I love writing. I really enjoy sitting down and writing my spec. I've written 4 specs over the last year. The first one just went out. I'm packaging the next one up. There's cool stuff happening with those things, and they were really enjoyable to write. And they've already given me so much, actually, just in the writing of them. Obviously, selling them is great too. but just from a creative perspective, so specking, I think, is still, I think, for writers of all levels, just the thing that we have to be doing all of the time. Because like I said, I haven't the amount of movies that are now getting made, the people that they are going to for those jobs is just shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. So I do feel hopeful that with this, flurry of spec sales, I am actually excited about the Skydance purchase of Paramount. I think Paramount's going to be doing some really interesting things and some bold moves. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with that, which I then hope will then encourage the other studios to go, oh, what are they doing? We need to be doing this, a similar thing.
Sure,
we need to be
nice
getting
if
out.
that's how it works. Yeah.
So I remain hopeful. Things have been there's been movement this year. We're still not there yet. It's still, here's the thing. It was always hard. It's always been hard.
Yeah.
It's felt especially hard over the last couple of years, especially hard. I think we need to, as writers, be really mindful. And, this is a lesson for me because I like to write big movies. And the latest one I've written is probably an $80 million movie, that doesn't have a movie star role in it. As the main
Did you say 80?
80, I would say. It's
so
probably
that's
that.
a big movie. So
yeah, between 60 and 80,
That seems to be about the upper limit for what you can sell, like as a spec.
I think so too. So I think we have to be mindful of budgets, concepts, and movie star roles. I think we have to go, can we make this for a price? Am I going to be able to attract named talent that is going to be interested in playing this character? Let's put a journey in there. Let's give them an arc. Let's give them a good theme to explore, and what did I say? Arc, budget. Oh yeah, and concept. Just having concepts that become just undeniable. That as soon as you pitch, you go, oh yeah, that's cool. Like Ted, when you pitch me, Airlock, I go, oh, that's cool. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Very
the title's fantastic, by the way. The
Great,
title alone
absolutely
is like really good.
We might have to get rid of it turns out, but
well, you know what? It's okay. It can work as a working title for now. It's a really good one. So
yeah, totally.
But
so so I think as writers we need to be cognizant of those things, just as we move into 2026.
Cool, man. That's all great advice. Ted, you got other questions for Jake at all before we wrap up here?
Well, I was wondering, when you talk about getting attachments, is it more important, in your opinion, to get director attachments or actor attachments?
Actor attachments. Again, it depends on the nature of the project. My latest spec that just went out, this is my first solo spec that just went out. It's based on a Nate, you read it. Based on I'll probably say it. No, should I say it?
I can't tell you.
Okay.
You don't feel obligated.
So I just wrote a spec based on Peter and the Wolf, which is obviously a bit of music that we all study in school. As soon as you go, da, 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 you go, people go, oh yeah, I know that, and there's a very little story around that piece of music. And I built it out into a big Disney-esque movie. But the lead character is a kid, and you could cast around him. The feedback we've been getting from studios has been, this needs a director because there's no movie star role in it. So in that particular case, getting a director would be good. Okay. But I think most of the time, it's actor first.
Getting that movie star.
I'm interested to hear what you think about what I constantly hear with just about anything that we're taking out with various producers or whatever is like director first, because the director gets us the actor. But are you finding that your agents will just go straight out to actors a lot of times?
So we will do a producer first.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
it will
right. Like
be-
if you get
that
like
will
an
be-
Akiva or somebody like that, like they can just bring in the actor. Yeah.
So that's what we did, and that's generally what I would do. Is I would go to a producer first. I would attach a producer and say, open your Rolodex, and I mean, literally, the movie that we've got lined up, our producer was like, I've got his cell phone number. I'll call him after the meeting. It's a great thing to say.
Right.
So yeah. So but yeah, of course, if you have an amazing director, then you can attract talent that way too. It depends on this. Honestly, I think the quality and size of the producer. If the producer, I mean, and Ted, from the sounds of your experience, your producer is able to get X amount people, including Oscar Isaac, interested in this.
That's very positive.
So yeah, but then interestingly, with our movie that we're working on right now, the star then sent it to the director. The director's a good friend of his. They worked together in the past. And they went, hey, do you want to direct this? And now he's on board too. So it actually happened very organically and in a really nice way. So, again, there's no right or wrong way to do it. No right or wrong way to package. Having a great director can be great. Having a great producer first can be great. But you ultimately need one of those people to then be connecting the dots and getting the name that a studio goes, oh yeah, we'd make a movie for them.
Totally.
We can sell that.
Yeah.
And it's funny as I'm talking about this, I'm like, oh yeah, I have one that's like we have an actor attached now, and we're figuring out the director thing. So like, but that was like an organic thing that came together, just kind of as you said, right? Like so, which is sometimes how it happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's whatever gets the movie made, right? So
it's exactly right. It's exactly right. Yeah.
And it's such a weird math to it sometimes. It doesn't always make sense.
Yeah, and it could be, and it's all personal relationships. It's all that stuff. So yeah.
Well, Ted, where can people find you? And is there anything you want to shout out or promote while you're on here?
No, I don't think there is really. I mean, I'm not on any
How refreshing.
I have that one script, but the producer doesn't want me really kind of sharing it publicly. I mean, like I'm allowed to send
it
around.
Makes sense.
But
you definitely want something like that.
It's not up anywhere.
Yep.
I have a few other pieces I'm working on, but none of them are quite ready for to really be out there. So no.
Cool. All right. Well, everybody just keep an eye out for Ted's script. Seems like you've got some good momentum happening there. Jake, what about you, man?
I'm on X, formerly known as Twitter, formerly known as the artist, formerly known as Prince, Jake Thornton. And then occasionally I run my blog. Occasionally I write my blog, which is at jakethorntonwrites.com. Nice. I'm actually updating it at the moment with I've been charting and looking back over the 11 years of my career and going through each of the kind of jobs and what was happening year by year. So I'm currently in the process of talking about a comic book movie and comic book show I almost wrote for Amazon called Thunder Agents, and all the crazy things that happened with that 11 years ago. So yeah, jakethorntonwrites.com.
That's awesome, dude. Cool. Well, thank you both. This has been very fun and very educational. And thank you to everybody who's watching. And that is One Scene.
If you want to see more from One Scene, you should definitely hit those like, subscribe, and hype buttons. But even better, you can become a part of this community by commenting below with your own thoughts and takeaways. And if you're interested in being part of a future episode, head on over to my website where you can find out more details. The link's in the description below, and if it's still active, that means I plan to make more of these. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next one.